really excited to tell you the album is now done and mastered and ready for consumption, and even Zuzu's excited. It's a bunch of my stuff, some wonderful stuff from George Napier, a reunion tune from the Scarlet Furies, some wonderful guest appearances by folks like Sarah Kelly and Trolls and Ian Francisco and Steve Hillstein. And anyway, I'm really, really pleased about it. You guys are getting it first, so I will wait to release it to the rest of the planet. We don't want to cause social upheaval. And again, thank you all for making this possible. It's been really fun working on this project, and I feel really fortunate to have, a great passionate group of people out there who are willing to support it and make it happen. So, thanks again, and hope you enjoy it. Why can't you do that on keyboard? Welcome you to the third installment in our little documentary on the making of Son of Sequel. This is a very exciting one for me. Son of Sequel is now complete, it's mastered, it's ready to be digested. There are instructions and a link down below on how to get it. It's, it turned out to be much more than I thought it would be at the very beginning. It is 20 tracks. 11 of those are Robert tracks. One is a reunion, as you've heard already, from the Scarlet Furies. And then 8 are ambient sound transitions from George Napier. And when you put all that together, it's really kind of a musical journey. I really would encourage you to, if you can, experience it in sequence. The way it's laid out, because I really think it's got a flow to it that helps the experience. Once again, thank you all for making this possible. It's such an exciting time when you spend a year on a project like this and then can get it out in the world and start to hear how people receive it. So that is the big news, but we've also got lots of other great stuff. First off, want to remind you, I've already started working on the opera, so that's in motion. Also, all the good stuff like ordering CDs, ordering the vinyl albums, t-shirts, music boxes, all that good stuff. It's all coming. It's going to take a while because a lot of these things take some time to produce, and we had to wait till we had the art for the album. But it is coming, and I will keep you posted on all that as we keep doing updates. So really excited again to be at this point in the project after a year, and want to thank all of you, of course, for making it possible, and all you Kickstarter folks and all the fans all over the world. It means so much to me, to do a project like this and have people out there who I know are, waiting for it and going to listen. So thank you very much. And I'm really looking forward to your feedback. Please let me know if you have favorites, how it feels to you, what it sounds like to you. I love to get that kind of stuff. Also, I want to thank our friend Sean, who has done a wonderful job putting all of these documentaries together and a lot of the other video and activity. He's been a huge help, so I could not have done all this without him, and it's really been wonderful. And keep your eye out for his Fogtown stuff, because it's amazing. Also, as a part of this, we've got some additional stuff for you to watch, which I think hopefully you'll enjoy. First one is a kind of a long-form piece of the documentary done by George Napier, which deals with his process and the process of he and I working together and how that happened and how we, got through that, both, communication, musically, all of that. And it's really interesting. I think you'll enjoy hearing about it from his perspective. You've seen enough of me. Also, it's not enough that George is a talented composer. He also does great video. And he has done one of the first music videos for the album, which is for a song, Westerly, which is one of my guitar-based songs. But for me, it's one of the more spiritual tunes. It's kind of George Harrison influenced. And George has done a great video, which I think really brings out the spirit and the message of the song. So I want to thank him for that, and hopefully you'll enjoy seeing that. So without further ado, please enjoy those additional pieces, and we will be back at you next month with another update on how things are going. Thanks again for making Son of Sequel possible. All right, we'll talk to you soon. Bye.
My name is George Napier. I also publish music and video under the name Gessler online. Robert asked me to talk a little bit about what it was like to work on Son of Sequel, so I thought I'd put something together. So where do I start? Robert and I go back a long time, and we met each other years ago in Seattle, and our mutual interest in music and music making and all of that kind of stuff just led to a friendship that's lasted for 25 years or so now. We've worked on other things in the past together, professionally and personally, but this is the first time that we've worked on something that actually the focus was doing some music and doing some music together. That's something we had talked about for a long time, just sort of in general, when you're just kind of shooting the breeze, but we just never had a chance to do it. And then last year, I think, or year before last, after Sequel came out, I did a couple of videos for Robert, and the idea came up with this next one. Why don't we try to do something together? And that was going to be really interesting because the challenge is to, kind of bring together our styles. Our styles are very different. So how do you bring together two really different approaches to music so that it makes something that's really broad, but at the same time, it's a cohesive experience for the listener? That was something we talked about quite a bit. And, we sort of had some strategies around that, things that we could do to, work together, collaborate on a couple of pieces. Somewhere in there, I was going to try to make a trip out to the Northwest, if only to, do some kind of recording of something, is just so that we're actually in the same room instead of working remotely. I live on the East Coast. Robert lives in the Northwest. So it is very much a time and distance mediated collaboration. Anyway, we had all of these plans on how we were going to, sort of do this. And as so often turns out with plans, they don't go the way you think. Around the middle of last year, my mom got really ill, and her health declined pretty rapidly, and she passed away in October. And my dad took an unexpected fall and passed away in December. And it was a difficult time. And, during that process, over those several months, I was not in a creative space. I thought, I need to just withdraw from the project because I'm holding it up. I'm just not there. And Robert wouldn't hear of it. He was like, no, that's not what we're going to do. You're going to take the time that you need. And then I told him, I said, okay, well, I'll just give me a couple of weeks. And he said, no, you're not giving yourself enough time. You need to take the time that you need. And he was right, one. And two, I will always be thankful that he was such a supportive friend, and just showed that kind of concern And, I don't know what else to say. It was a wonderful thing. On return to the project, and, sitting down and saying, okay, let's do this. I was reviewing things that I did during this period. I mean, music plays a lot of roles in my life, and sometimes it's therapeutic, other times it is joyous, sometimes it is like something I'm just kind of curious about intellectually. Sometimes you get that zone. Those are the times I like the most. You just fall into that zone, and suddenly you look up and it's 8 hours later, and you've created or had begun to create something. And during this period, I would do small little pieces, and sometimes they were kind of therapeutic. It's just like it had been a really hard day or hard week, and I used music to escape. Other times, it was something that was more of a reflective kind of space that I was in or whatever, But anyway, I went back into this folder that I have for the project, and there were a lot of little pieces, little snippets, things that I had done during this time. Some were really minimal. I mean, they were like, a drone and, some found sounds, and just, I mean, honestly, listening to it, I'm like, well, where was my mind, when I did this? Other pieces were much more developed, like bringing light or nothing to hold. Those were more developed pieces that I apparently sat down several sessions and, kind of worked on and things like that. So it was like finding a journal. It was like finding a journal with a bunch of handwritten stories, and the handwriting is yours, but you don't know the stories, or you don't remember the stories that well. So, you're kind of, it's the weird, you're reading this journal and you're like, oh, wow, the story, I'm really captivated by this story, but it's in your handwriting. So don't you know where the story goes? It was really, it was very interesting. It was like an archaeological dig. I took those and then, began to, sort of develop, flesh them out, and finish them over several months. And, that culminated in what you hear on Son of Sequel, right? So the pieces, one of the things with when we did Son of Sequel, it turns out that there was enough space for, well, we had basically 3 album sides worth of music. And so that actually gave us an opportunity to use the 4th side to take some of the, some of the more complete versions of some of the pieces that are in the album and put them together, and, sort of put them together in sort of like an ambient kind of journey. And that was unexpected. I was really pleased that it happened that way. And we kind of had talked about it, but, basically, if it happened, it happened. If it didn't, it didn't. And it turned out that it happened, which is really nice. So, so that's there. In case anybody out there is kind of a music technology person or whatever, because I love to talk about that stuff too. On the technical side, I use a lot of different what are called digital audio workstations, pieces of software for doing music, DAWs. There's one on the screen behind me, actually. That one's Ableton Live. I use a lot of different ones because they have different tools in them. And it's not that 95% of the stuff that you can do in any DAW. You know, they might have different key commands, or they might have a different sequence or way of getting it done, but it's there. And then, you know, there are little things I shouldn't say little, there are things that, you know, sort of separate the approach of different DAWs. And so for me, those things are really important, because the thing that makes Logic different from Bitwig, different from Studio One, different from Ableton Live, different from Traction, you know, et cetera, et cetera. Those unique tools in there influence kind of what I come up with, right? So if I were to set out and start writing a song in Cubase, it'll turn out one way. If I write a song in Ableton Live, it could turn out the same way. But because there's a different set of tools available in Ableton Live, the tools will influence kind of what I do. So, yeah, I use a lot of different DAWs, and so I did on Son of SQL. I mean, it Reason, Studio One, Logic, Cubase, Ableton Live, I think a bit of Traction Waveform. So, you know, in case anybody is curious about that, that's what happened. And if I had to vote for an MVP for the DAWs, the digital audio workstations, I'd be hard pressed to figure out if that should be Bitwig, because a lot of the stuff got started in Bitwig, though not necessarily finished there, or Ableton Live, because just because it's Ableton Live. So that plugins, I use a number of plugins. Probably the MVP for this album is Native Instruments Contact, because I use a lot of those libraries throughout my pieces on Son of SQL. As far as like hardware MVP, I'd have to point to those lights back here. That's my modular system. Almost every song on Son of SQL has something from the modular in it mixed in. It might be for the songs that are sort of more ambient and less structured. You know, if there is a drone that's happening, I can almost guarantee you it's the modular. But even for, you know, other things, I've got pieces of the modular in there. And the modular is just interesting too, because one thing about a system like that with all the wires and everything is that there are no presets. So, you know, once you find a sound that you like and you record it, you take those wires out, and even if you document everything and take all the pictures of all the knob positions and all of that, I guarantee you that your chances of coming up with the same sound, if you were to plug all that stuff back in, is almost nil. So, and that's one of the reasons I got this, because sometimes I can be a little too precious about things, and one of the things about the digital audio workstation, it's a lot like a word processor for music. That's a horrible analogy, but let's just go with it. And it and like a word processor, you can always go back and tweak. You can always change. You can cut and paste this paragraph, or, you know, change this line, whatever. And so with DAWs, I run the risk of constantly reworking things, and never like committing. Modular, you have to commit, and you have to move on. And that's one of the reasons that I got it. You know, so I guess it's kind of therapeutic. Okay, so enough about the tech. If anybody wants to know anything else about the technical stuff, just contact me. I can talk about that stuff all day. What is coming? So, it's not over. I'm working on some videos for a couple of pieces, a couple of Robert's pieces off of the album. Um, there are several songs in particular. A lot of times when I listen to Robert's music, and this is kind of unique um, to Robert's stuff. I mean, it happens other times, but it happens a lot with Robert. I'll listen to a song and it immediately evokes imagery, or some kind of image or an approach or something, and I I just it's something that I go with, and Robert has been really great because he's kind of let me go with it, and fortunately, so far anyway, this stuff that I've done, he likes. So I'm working on a couple of pieces that really, really just struck, just evoked some imagery. I'm not going to tell you which ones they are right now because it's going to be a surprise. I'm also going to work on some video for my pieces. I'm really interested in exploring sort of, AI generated video and sort of linking that with some of the sort of soundscapes and spaces that I created for Son of Sequel. And there's other videos that are coming too, but I'll let Robert talk about that. And there is the opera, which is going to be a really, really interesting undertaking, not only creatively but also technically. To sort of take and revive and update that material in a way that works. I'm looking forward to playing some part in that. So I guess that's about it. Thank you to all of the backers on Kickstarter who had confidence and faith and made this possible. So on that note, I will, I guess, talk to you soon. So thanks a lot. Take care.